Well, it is definitely a Monday, and we got so much to get to. So, welcome into 3 Point Stands presented by Mountain Dew. Meghan, Triplett, John Roser with me. And let's just start college football because that's kind of like the biggest storyline coming out of the weekend. We do know our top four teams. So, we got Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Notre Dame. Any surprises there for you, Roser?
No, it's about what we all thought it would be. I do want to say thank you. I know we're going to get to it, but I do like to say thank you for not bringing up the 49ers losing to the Cowboys first. My life has been a living hell the last 24 hours, especially my text messages from one Chris Vernon. Anyways, we'll get to that. On to the college football thing. Yeah, I mean, it's who we all thought they would be. The big story now is Dabo Swinney on his ballot. He had Ohio State ranked 11th. That was the worst ranking that any coach had for them. So Ryan Day is going to use this as bulletin board material for his team to get them prepared to take on Clemson for the second straight season in the college football playoff. Alabama's going to kill Notre Dame. I don't even know why we're playing the game. I don't really know. I mean, Notre Dame should just forfeit it. Alabama is, they're favored by 19.5 points for a reason. The Vegas lines expect Alabama to beat the hell out of them too. That one, the Clemson Ohio State game is the one that is really interesting because they played last year. Ohio State got screwed on some bad calls in that game. And Clemson was able to win, and then they lost to LSU. So now we got a rematch, and Ohio State has read everything that Dabo Swinney has said about them. So I do think that game is going to be great.
Yeah, and then on the flip side of it for Clemson, you're talking about a team that obviously had a lot of talk around them. However, with the ACC not being as good as we all thought it was going to be, that one loss to Notre Dame, earlier in the season without Trevor Lawrence, so due to COVID, Trevor Lawrence comes out here and looks as if like, oh wow, I think I forgot like how good this Trevor Lawrence is. The guy threw for 322 yards. Yes, he had that interception, but you look what Clemson put out there on that field against Notre Dame in this ACC championship game. You're like, oh wow, okay, here we go. And obviously, Dabo after that game had made that comment saying, hey, if Trevor Lawrence is not in the conversation of the Heisman, that is like crazy to him. And so now we have to look into who's going to win this Heisman, especially after the performance that Alabama had. They allowed for it to get back up there a little bit close to make it a game. But now, the conversation is Heisman. Is Trevor Lawrence in that conversation?
The one thing about that, you never felt like Alabama was going to lose that game, though. You never felt like they were in jeopardy of losing that game. It was a great night for me monetarily, though. Those overs, big numbers on Saturday night. Right now, there are only 3 or 4 players you can bet on to win the Heisman. It is Devontae Smith, Mac Jones, Najee Harris, and then Trevor Lawrence. I think it's going to be one of the Alabama guys that wins. But there's no doubt Trevor Lawrence is the best player in college football. The other underrated thing about Clemson the other night that they didn't have the first time they played Notre Dame, they had 3 starters out on defense that first time they played Notre Dame, and they had all 3 of those guys back on Saturday, and it definitely showed having those 3 and Trevor Lawrence back. Lawrence is the best player in college football. However, the betting favorite right now is Devontae Smith. After Saturday night's game, where he had 15 catches, 180-something yards, and a couple touchdowns, he has gone in the last 3 weeks. He has gone from 50-1 to 22-1 to now minus 200 to win the Heisman Trophy, which means you could have bet $100 on him at 50-1 odds and you would cash some money. Now you have to bet $200 just to win $100 on him.
Okay, well, you know what? It's only a matter of a couple of weeks before you figure out who is going to take on that Heisman. And the college football playoff, it's set. Whether you like it or not, we got our top 4 teams. We're going to have some great games that we'll get to experience. And the bowl games are all set too. And there's some craziness with that, but can't wait to see some more college football games. Let's now get over to the NFL because Sunday was also, the whole entire weekend was also a big news in the NFL. Buffalo makes some history by, winning the AFC. That's something they have not done in several years. But on the flip side of it, I walked away talking about the Jets. I know your NFL weekend was very different for you, though.
Yeah, I got to wear a Cowboys jersey on the show. If you can't watch the show live today, you can find it on YouTube, or they're all archived on YouTube if you want to watch the video for it. I'll be wearing a Dallas Cowboys jersey today. Also, I mean, it's I hate Nick Mullins. I hate, with the fires of seven hells, I hate Nick Mullins as a quarterback, not as a person. Now, I'm sure he's a wonderful guy. I hate him as a quarterback. I mean, and obviously Kyle Shanahan got fed up with it too, and he finally pulled him at the end of the game. I mean, not all 4 turnovers were Mullins. Not all 4 were his fault. The picks were god-awful.
But you know what, Roser? I'm surprised.
You can't turn the ball over 4 times. We're not the Kansas City Chiefs. You can't turn the ball over 4 times and win.
No, you can't. But what I'm surprised for you is that as a 49ers fan, there's a lot of 49ers fans who want to lose just because of, like, you want to get high in the draft pick. Do you want a quarterback? That's a question. I know for you it's different because you and Chris Vernon, y'all had this kind of like bet going on about, you know, if whoever loses has to win the other team's jersey. So you were on the other end of that.
I'm still throwing shade. The Cowboys suck too. We had no business losing to them.
And
I come away from that game and I'm like, how do we lose to them? It's because we turned the ball over 4 freaking times.
Yeah, when that happens, it makes it really difficult. You know, I mean, at least you're not a Jets fan. You had the biggest upset
crushed right now because the Jacksonville Jaguars are now going to have the number 1 pick, it appears, and unless they're able to pull off another win too, there's a couple more weeks left of the season. You know what though? Players don't care about that. So shout out to Arthur Mollett, former Memphis Tiger, plays for the Jets. They got a win yesterday. Good for them. Those players care. The players want to win.
They do care.
The game, in the words of the great Herm Edwards, you play to win the game. Good for those players. It's one of the biggest upsets in NFL history, outright upsets in NFL history.
I mean, you were able to you go up against the top defense, and the way that they came out there, it looked very, odd that the Jets were like, what? Where did this come from? Did y'all have this in this whole time? They walked off that field with the biggest smiles on your faces, but then you go back on Twitter and looking at Jets fans, they're like, but our chances of getting Trevor Lawrence just fell through the crack because now the Jaguars, they win that head-to-head when it comes to that tiebreaker, and so they got a 74% chance of getting that number 1 draft pick. And so now you're faced with, do you want to stick with Sam Darnold? You don't want to be a bad team and not get get something out of it. So it's hilarious. It's a funny storyline. But for the Jets, they hadn't won a game in 58 days. So let's give it to them.
Shout out to the New York Jets. Shout out to them. Good, congratulations on getting your win. And then as far as me with draft pick, look, I like to win every week. I like to win. I would love nothing more than to beat Seattle in the final game of the season. My heart would be so full if that could happen. But the reality is we're probably going to finish 5-11 because I don't think we're going to beat Arizona or Seattle either. What we do draft-wise, we'll see. I think a lot of fans are going to want them to take a quarterback. I don't know if they will.
Okay. We'll wait and see. Now, something I want to give a huge shout out to really quickly is the Memphis Grizzlies. The NBA starts this week. It starts on Tuesday, but for our Grizzlies, we start Wednesday night taking on the San Antonio Spurs, and we just wrapped up a preseason where we went 3-1. But Roser, give me your biggest prediction for the Memphis Grizzlies in this year.
Ja Morant will average a double-double.
I like that.
10 blocks a game. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Not 10 blocks. He will average 10 assists a game.
I could see that for after what we see this preseason, and we know that that's something that he wants. I could see that. I'm going to give you Justice Winslow. I think that he is going to have a great season. He's going to be healthy. He's going to play, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people how well he fits within this Grizzlies group. Saw him warming up preseason on the last 2 preseason games, and I was impressed, and it got me really, really excited for what this team can be when we're all healthy.
I heard. Our man Devin Walker's told me that he's seen Justice warming up and said he looks pretty good. So Grizzlies fans are definitely hopeful for that.
Yeah, and we're all super excited. Make sure you're tuned to Fox Sports Southeast on Wednesday night, Grizzlies versus the Spurs at 7 o'clock. Roser, like always, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. This has been 3 Point Stance presented by Mountain Dew.